his Sports Money blog, writes that the Eagles and Sixers might be to blame for the Phillies' low attendance numbers this season. That's something that I kind of suggested regarding, hey, you spent so much on the Super Bowl, the run to the championship, the Eagles season, then the Flyers make the playoffs, then the Sixers make the playoffs. How much sports dollar is left? But will winning put butts in the seats? Kevin Cooney, welcome back, and congratulations on the four-peats. Everything's good, my man. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's a lovely summer day. I think they'll come back, but it's going to take some time. I mean, you don't flick a switch and 5 years worth of shoddy baseball just disappears from the public's consciousness. It just doesn't happen that way.
Well, okay, that's a point that a lot of people bring up. Like, people didn't believe in this team. They need to get proven more. And I would flip it around and say, well, the Sixers were bad for 3 straight years, and then, boom, they sold out like in a snap.
And I would give you this. One, it's easier to sell out a 20,000-seat building that plays 40 times a year as opposed to a 45,000-seat building that plays 81 times a year. That's one. Two, the personalities certainly are different. When you talk Embiid and Simmons and everything, the Phillies don't have anybody that close to that level at this point. You could say Nola on talent is probably the closest to all of them, but Aaron Nola, nice guy and everything, he doesn't have that personality yet that makes him must watch, kind of like an Embiid is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I what you mentioned in the lead-in, I think that there's a little bit of if you run a credit card bill up, okay, and you have spent all the money you spent on going to Minneapolis or buying every trinket that came out with midnight green on it and said Super Bowl champions, and then you spent a lot of money on Sixer stuff and a Sixer playoff run and all that. And I'm not even going to count the Flyers because I think the Flyers are almost a separate socioeconomic class. You're dealing more with corporates. You're dealing more with a hardened fan base that is in the hockey and that maybe even is their only sport.
Who, by the way, Kevin, they were not selling out like a rite of passage either, by the way.
No, and there's a lot of tickets. I'll tell you what, for years you could go on StubHub and get Sixer tickets cheap. You go on StubHub now and get Flyers tickets really cheap for any time before March. And then after March, it seems like it's a little more difficult, when the games tend to matter more. I think when it gets to the Phillies, though, there's the Kapler thing that I don't think people bought into Kapler. I think they're starting to a little bit now. They don't have that big personality, that must-see. Even Jake Arrieta, who they brought in, who I think was their biggest free agent. If you think about it, he signed him in the middle of, spring training, early March. That's not going to really move the needle on the ticket, on the ticket scale. Their season ticket base, Mike, over the last 6 years has been decimated. There's a lot of factors at play, and that's why I don't think it's as big a deal as everybody made it out to be. And the other part of it is, I think people have this mistaken impression that it was always this way at Citizens Bank Park in the last era. It wasn't. They had a 7,000 ticket a game drop average between 2004 when the park opened and 2005, and that was with a team that was relatively in contention, had Jim Thome and Bobby Abreu, and had little more pieces than this team had. And the economy, and this isn't to get into a political thing, the economy to a lot of people was a heck of a lot better back then than it is now. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. I mean, it's a real tricky spot, but I think that when they get going in this, if they're in contention in September, that place will be packed. It always is.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I want to ask you, because you were there 08, 9, 10, and you saw that place. That place was the place to be. I mean, my contention would be the young kids are not going. That place was a place to party. It was a place to go. It was a place to hang out. It was a place to hang out with your buddies. And let's be honest, tie one on. Ashburn Alley was packed, and some of those people weren't even watching the game. That fan seems like they are no longer consuming this product.
Well, and part of that could be the fact that, the ballpark's not new anymore. And I know they're doing some stuff around the ballpark that has re-energized it a little bit. I thought moving basically some of the concessions over to that left field area and then building the kids area in right field was a good idea. It gave it a little bit more of a feel. It's funny, for most of this year, I've gone a couple times as a fan. You get to see stuff you don't see when you're in a press box, and you get to see how the kids enjoy that stuff and everything. But it's also, Mike, it's an expensive ticket. I don't have the stuff right in front of me, but compared to what it was back then, it feels a heck of a lot more expensive to go down there. Between parking and concessions and even tickets in the upper deck aren't cheap. And I think that's something that I think we can look up in New York and look at Yankee Stadium. Yankee Stadium still draws a lot, but that they've kind of priced out a lot of Yankee fans there. And I think the Phillies, maybe they haven't done it fully yet, but they may at some point get real close to towing that line.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so 08 or 07 they make the playoffs. 08 they win the World Series. 09, 10, and 11 they're right in the thick of things. Are they going because
and Mike, by the way, we should point out that sellout streak that everybody talks about did not begin until the middle of 09.
09. Okay, so are they going because the team is good or because they have stars they liked to see and the game was better? Because let's say this team starts to go on a roll. Do we think they're going to start a new sellout streak if they continue with this style of team and play?
I think part of that back then was the personalities. Even in 2008, 2009, you looked around and you went, okay, they have the best first baseman in franchise history playing now in Howard and the best second baseman in Utley at that point. And you knew that Rollins and Boa were close, okay? And then Jimmy, obviously, with his longevity and passing him on the hits list and everything, Jimmy probably inches ahead of him on that one, too. People knew they were instantly watching the greatest of that Phillies. That Phillies era was the greatest it had ever been. And then you threw in the Victorinos and the Hallidays and people who they related to. And that's why I think it appealed more towards that fan that's just going to have a party, because it was, you were having a good time with guys that you generally liked, watching guys you generally liked. I don't know if there's that connection yet. Herrera can be a fun player. He could also be maddening to a lot of people. Hoskins, I think, is a good guy, and I think at some point the Phillies can sell him. But I think also the fan base knows that whoever they're going to get in this offseason coming up is probably going to be the real face of the franchise going forward. And I don't know if they're necessarily thinking that these guys are going to be the guys going forward that they're going to have that seamless affection for, compared to Howard and Utley and Rollins and Chooch and all that.
We're chatting with Kevin Cooney. He wrote a piece at Forbes that we discussed yesterday regarding the attendance. How about the game? You covered the game every day while it was mildly popular. It wasn't 1998 popular, but 2008, 9, 10, 11 was very popular, at least in this region. The game that we see today, even in the popular baseball areas, is this a game that translates to putting fannies in the seats?
No, and I think part of it is just the length of the game. And I know Rob Manfred has tried to find ways of speeding the game up. There's not enough time of the ball in play at this point, in my opinion, for the game to really get any kind of a foothold. You see a lot of swings and misses, and part of that is the shift, and obviously guys trying to hit over the shift. And I think you've seen, middle infielders who, quite frankly, have no business swinging for the fences now trying to swing for the fences all the time if there's a shift of a shortstop behind second base. It's ridiculous how all this has happened, and that sounds like a get off my lawn kind of argument. It's not. It's meant as a. The problem is the sport is just not having enough action. There is beauty in the sport when guys are able to play first to third baseball. When you get guys on base, when you see the great defensive play and everything. It feels like now it's strikeout or nothing. I mean, a guy who has 10 strikeouts in a game at this point feels like the norm, not the exception. And as a pitcher, sometimes it feels like 10 strikeouts in a game as a hitter is a routine thing. I think that's what's really hurting the sport. Plus, and Mike, I know you're a big NBA guy. The best part of the NBA is they market their players perfectly. They're relatable. You know what they are.
Can I tell you, Kevin, though, I was not a big NBA guy until recently. Like, I don't know. I still coach youth baseball. I played baseball in college.
Right.
I made a switch somewhere, and I'm confused myself.
The way that the NBA is portrayed in its marketing, its connection with fans seems a lot better. The personalities seem to be more out there.
Yep. Definitely.
And by their broadcast partners. Look at the way ESPN treats NBA Summer League.
We were talking about that earlier.
And then look at the way they treat Major League Baseball, which is supposed to, in the middle of its season, which is supposed to be one of its hallmark events. I mean, when ESPN got Major League Baseball back in 1990, it was a huge deal. It actually seemed like it solidified the network more. Now baseball's an afterthought on ESPN. You look at the way Fox treats it. Basically Fox bought the rights just to have October, and that's it. They don't care about regular season baseball with the game of the week and everything. Mm-hmm. Baseball has accepted itself as a regional sport, and if your team's not good in that region, if you're not the Yankees, if you're not the Red Sox, if you're not the Cubs or Dodgers, you're really having a tough time right now because there's not a lot of juice behind it, even though the fact that the Astros and the last couple of years have had contenders, the Royals, that were not exactly in those huge markets. It's a strange circumstance. If I was Major League Baseball, I would clean out my marketing department so fast it would make your head spin.
Here's one for you, Kevin. Is Philly a baseball town?
It's almost like, and I'm not sure how much you're going to push back on me, I don't think Philly's a basketball town, okay? I think it's when the team is good, people will get into it. But, if you're saying it's a basketball town, to me, basketball towns are there every night, okay? And, all you have to do is look back 3-4 years ago where you could get a Sixer ticket for $5 on StubHub.
Yeah. I think Philly is a basketball town, maybe not specifically NBA, but they like from high school, college, and they want their basketball. They yearn for it to be good. Is that fair?
Yeah, and you know what? But even I'll contradict you on this. You look at college basketball. Look at the way Temple draws at Liacouras, which is not good. Mm-hmm. Right now the air out of the college basketball scene around here, Division I, is controlled by one team. And if you're everybody else, you're kind of just, gasping for any kind of attention at this point.
True.
It's is it a little bit of a fair weather baseball town? Yeah, it is. I mean, and I know it's not Cleveland or Pittsburgh where it's going to fall to like 9,000 a night. They'll always be in that 14 to 15,000 range. There's only one team here that if you open the gates, it's going to fill every night, and that's the football team playing eight times a year in the fall. Mm-hmm. That's
it. This Phillies team here, you mentioned, there's not a great deal of personality. Now, about a month or so ago, Gabe Kapler said he thought it was the most exciting team in the league to watch. He's trying to sell his team. Can this team, at some point this summer, grab this fan base? You think the fans will come back? Do you think this team, or are they going to have to make a trade to really get people to buy into this 2018 team?
You see, this is a double-edged question. I think they're good enough to get people hooked because they fight every night. There's very rare nights where they kind of roll over. I mean, you're going to have that during a long summer, but there's a lot of nights where they'll scrape and claw, and their bullpen may not be great, but they'll find a way to kind of get through it. They may get. You look at 2 nights ago. Nola was great. The offense was awful, but they still found a way to get it done. And there was a little bit of an excitement factor with that. For them to contend, though, to really contend in the National League, they're going to have to make a move of some sort. And I'm not even saying Manny Machado, because I think the Manny Machado thing, if you get him now and you can't re-sign him and you've given away a lot of prospects, boy, you're going to feel awful foolish next year, because this isn't a you need to win it right now club. You can take your shot and still make your move in the off season to kind of bridge the gap. But in my mind, they have to make a move for like a Brad Hand in the back end of the bullpen. They could use maybe somebody like a Mike Moustakas, who's not going to cost them a heck of a lot. If Cole Hamels is available, maybe a kick the tires on him as a left-handed starter. I think for them to make a playoff run, they need to make at least 1, maybe 2 moves. But I'm not necessarily sold that it has to be that Machado level, because look, I mean, the Nationals lose 2 or 3 in Pittsburgh. That kind of shows you where they are right now. They're just floundering. It's going to be the Phillies and the Braves, I think, down the stretch, and I think that to get over the hump, they're going to need to make that one move to get past Atlanta.
So does the team itself, has their mentality switched, do you think, from spring training to now, like where they entered the league, like, hey, if we were competitive, that would be great, and now seeing we are competitive, we've got to change our focus?
And I'll admit, I haven't been around them, obviously, as much as I used to in the past, and that's something that if you're around them, you get a better feel for. But you can sense, just watching them, there's a little more confidence. There have been a lot of games this year where the 2012 to the 2017 Phillies would have just found a way to that it would have been a crusher. They would have lost, and it would have been a crusher for weeks on end. That it would have sent them, into one of them, like last year, they had a tailspin in May after they lost that game in Los Angeles where Neris gave up the slam, or the home runs that ended up costing them the game. They've had a couple games like that where you thought, uh-oh, here comes the bottom falling out, and they haven't had that yet.
Yep.
So I think that's a sign of confidence that they can bounce back from a lot of things, and that's where I give Kapler a lot of credit. I'm not the world's biggest Gabe Kapler fan. There's some stuff that he does that still kind of, makes me, furrow my brow a little bit.
He seems to be going more, though. He seems to be going less by the book and more with his gut. Like, he's at least incorporating more. Yes.
I think the best managers use both, and I think Kapler's learning that. Where I think Kapler's going to have a trouble long term is, will this relentless positive personality play with a team in his 3rd or 4th year? You always hear the thing of managers that go to the whip too much have a short shelf life. Well, I wonder if managers that are endlessly positive have a short shelf life too. I think need guys who can ride it both ways. And, look, Kapler's doing a great job. He's in manager of the year conversations, justifiably. But I would also say right now, a little bit of a, pump the brakes on whether this is going to last long term with Gabe.
Well, I encourage everybody out there, go to Forbes.com and check out Kevin Cooney's piece, or follow him on Twitter at Kevin Cooney. Will you return to the ballpark if the Phillies continue to win? Kevin thinks so. We can continue the conversation, but Kevin was kind enough to join us and give his side of it here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Kevin, always enjoy it, pal.
No problem, Mike. Talk to you soon.
All right, take care. Kevin Cooney, everybody.